I was already standing in the bathroom when the pain hit, sharp, relentless, and humiliating. I strained, sweat pouring down my face, but nothing came out. My bladder felt like it was about to burst. The clock on the wall ticked louder than my heartbeat. I gripped the edge of the sink, knuckles white, trying to force my body to cooperate. The pressure in my lower abdomen was unlike anything I had ever felt before. It wasn't just discomfort. It was agony wrapped in desperation. I tried different positions, leaning forward, standing straight, bending slightly at the knees. Nothing worked. Then a sudden wave of nausea bent me double, and I realized this was no ordinary discomfort. This wasn't something that would pass with time or patience. Something was seriously wrong, and it was happening fast. My vision blurred at the edges. My hands started trembling. I tried one last time, pushing with everything I had. That's when my legs gave out. I collapsed against the wall, sliding down until I was sitting on the cold bathroom floor, gasping for air. My wife, Miriam, heard the dull thud from the bedroom. I heard her call my name once, then twice, her voice rising with concern. When I didn't answer, panic must have crawled up her spine because within seconds, she was at the bathroom door, knocking urgently. "Donald? Donald, are you okay?" I tried to answer, but my voice came out as a weak groan. She forced the door open, and I saw her face change the moment she saw me. I was pale, shaking, gripping my lower abdomen like I was holding myself together. My shirt was soaked through with sweat. My eyes met hers, and I saw my own terror reflected back at me. Terrified, ashamed, helpless, she dropped to her knees beside me, her hands hovering over me like she didn't know where to touch without causing more pain. "What's wrong? What happened?" she asked, her voice cracking. I swallowed hard, my throat dry as sandpaper. "I can't pee," I whispered. "It feels like I'm dying." Miriam helped me to the bed, but lying down made everything worse. The pressure intensified the moment my back touched the mattress. I sat up immediately, gasping. Sitting hurt. Standing hurt. Every position was torture. I tried lying on my side, curling up, stretching out. Nothing provided relief. The pain radiated from my pelvis up into my stomach, down into my legs. Miriam asked me questions I could barely focus on. Had this happened before? How long had I been in pain? Why didn't I wake her sooner? I finally admitted the truth. Yes, this had happened before. Not like this, never this bad, but there had been signs. Weak stream. Hesitation when I tried to go. Waking up multiple times at night. I had hidden it from her. I had hoped it would go away on its own. Men don't complain about bathroom problems. Men don't make a fuss. Now the pain was screaming louder than my pride ever did. My abdomen began to visibly swell, pushing against my skin like something was growing inside me. Miriam grabbed her phone and started searching frantically. I watched her face as she read, saw the fear growing in her eyes with each word. "Acute urinary retention," she read aloud. "Medical emergency. Kidney failure." The words hung in the air between us like a death sentence. She kept reading, her fingers scrolling faster and faster. I started shaking uncontrollably. My teeth chattered even though I wasn't cold. My voice began slurring between groans. I tried to tell her I was okay, that we should wait, but the words came out wrong. Minutes felt dangerous now. Each second that passed felt like we were gambling with something precious. Waiting was no longer an option. Miriam knew it. I knew it. My body was shutting down in front of us. Then something changed. My vision started going dark at the edges, closing in like a tunnel. "Miriam," I said, and my voice sounded far away. "I feel dizzy." The room tilted sideways. Her face swam in and out of focus. Then everything started fading to black. Somehow, I made it to the car. Miriam must have half carried me, because I don't remember walking. Every bump in the road sent fire through my body. Speed bumps felt like explosions. Potholes were torture. I clenched my jaw, trying not to scream, trying to be strong for her. But the sounds escaped anyway, low animal groans I couldn't control. Miriam was crying and driving at the same time, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. She ran a red light. I heard tires screeching somewhere behind us. Sirens wailed in the distance, maybe for us, maybe for someone else. I didn't care. I gripped the dashboard with both hands and muttered a prayer I hadn't said in years. "God, please. Please don't let me die like this. Please let us make it in time." The hospital was only 10 minutes from our house, but it felt like we were driving across the entire country. Time stretched and contracted strangely. Then suddenly I stopped talking. The pain was too much. I couldn't form words anymore. I just stared straight ahead, barely breathing. At the hospital entrance, everything became a blur of movement and noise. Nurses rushed toward us the moment Miriam pulled up. Someone opened my door. Hands reached in and pulled me onto a stretcher. The fluorescent lights overhead were blinding. Voices shouted instructions I couldn't understand. Miriam was pushed back as doctors surrounded me, firing questions she could barely answer through her tears. How long had I been in pain? When was the last time I urinated? Did I have any medical conditions? I was barely conscious now, drifting in and out. My entire body was soaked in sweat. I could feel my bladder, hard and distended, pressing against everything inside me. Someone pressed on my abdomen, and I screamed. A doctor appeared above me, his face serious, his eyes sharp. He looked at something I couldn't see, then turned to a nurse. If we don't relieve this now, he said, his voice urgent and low, he could suffer permanent damage. Those words cut through the fog. Permanent damage. I didn't know what that meant exactly, but I knew it was bad. They inserted the catheter. The sensation was sharp, invasive, deeply humiliating. I wanted to protest, to ask them to wait, to do anything else. But I couldn't speak. Within seconds, urine flooded the collection bag. It poured out in a steady, shocking stream. I watched the bag fill rapidly, 1 liter, then 2, then more. The nurses exchanged glances. One of them whispered something to the doctor. The relief in my bladder was immediate and overwhelming. The crushing pressure that had been destroying me for hours suddenly released. I gasped, my whole body going limp on the bed. Relief crashed over me like a wave, followed immediately by exhaustion so deep I could barely keep my eyes open. Then came the shame. Hot, burning shame that made me turn my face away. I couldn't look at Miriam. I couldn't look at anyone. I felt exposed, weak, broken. But when I finally glanced at the doctor's face, hoping to see relief there too, his expression remained serious. Something was still wrong. The tests came back and confirmed what the doctor had suspected. Benign prostatic hyperplasia. BPH. My prostate had been silently growing for years, slowly closing off my ability to urinate. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't bad luck. This was neglect, fear, and denial catching up all at once. The doctor explained it to us in simple terms. My prostate gland, which sits right below the bladder, had enlarged and squeezed my urethra shut like a hand closing around a straw. Urine had been backing up for hours, stretching my bladder beyond its limits, pushing waste and toxins backward into my kidneys. If we had waited any longer, my kidneys would have started failing. Infections could have set in. My bladder could have ruptured. The doctor looked at me seriously, making sure I understood. Without ongoing care, he said, this could happen again. And next time might be worse. I nodded slowly, the weight of his words settling over me like a heavy blanket. This wasn't over. This was just the beginning. That night, after they moved me to a regular room and the immediate danger had passed, I finally opened up to Miriam. She sat in the chair beside my bed, still wearing the same clothes from when we'd rushed out of the house. Her eyes were red from crying. I told her everything I'd been hiding. The nighttime urination that had been getting worse for months. Getting up 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a night. The weak stream that took forever to start and stop. The feeling of never being completely empty. The stopping and starting, the dribbling, the embarrassment. I had convinced myself it was just aging. All men go through this, I'd told myself. Real men endure discomfort quietly. Real men don't run to doctors over bathroom problems. So I'd said nothing. I'd suffered in silence. I'd hoped it would go away on its own. Miriam listened without interrupting, her hand holding mine. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "We both missed the warning signs." Her voice was sad, not angry. Just sad. The next morning, a different doctor came to speak with us. He was older, with kind eyes and a gentle manner. He explained exactly how close I had come to disaster. My bladder had been holding nearly 2 liters of urine when they'd finally drained it. Normal capacity was about half that. The pressure had been pushing backward into my kidneys, causing them to swell and begin shutting down. A few more hours and I would have been in acute kidney failure. Infections could have developed. My bladder wall, stretched so thin, could have ruptured, spilling urine into my abdomen and causing sepsis. The pain I'd felt wasn't just suffering. It was my body begging for help in the only language it knew. I lay there listening, haunted by how easily this could have ended differently. What if Miriam had been out of town? What if I'd been too embarrassed to tell her? What if we'd waited until morning? I turned to the doctor with a question that had been eating at me. What if this happens again when I'm at home? What am I supposed to do? The doctor pulled up a chair and sat down, taking his time with the answer. He explained the emergency warning signs every man should know. Sudden inability to urinate despite urgent need. Severe lower abdominal pain and swelling. Dizziness, confusion, or weakness. These weren't things to wait out or hope would pass. These were red flags demanding immediate action. He spoke slowly, making sure I understood each point. This story, he said, wasn't unique. It was frighteningly common. Thousands of men ignored these symptoms every year. Some caught it in time. Others didn't. He leaned forward slightly, his voice taking on a different tone. More urgent. More personal. There are things you can do before help arrives, he said. I sat up straighter in bed, ignoring the lingering soreness. I needed to hear this. Miriam grabbed a pen and paper from her purse. The doctor smiled slightly, appreciating our attention. Then he began explaining, step by step, what could mean the difference between life and death the next time someone faced what I had faced. The doctor's instructions were clear and practical. If a man suddenly cannot urinate and feels severe lower abdominal pain, it is a medical emergency. First, seek emergency care immediately. Call for an ambulance or get someone to drive you. Do not wait. Do not try to tough it out. Every minute counts. Second, avoid forcing urine out. Straining and pushing will only make things worse and could cause damage. Third, try sitting upright or leaning forward slightly. This position can sometimes ease the pressure temporarily. Fourth, apply gentle warmth to the lower abdomen with a warm, not hot, cloth or heating pad. This may help relax the bladder muscles. Fifth, avoid alcohol or excess fluids. They will worsen the situation. And finally, stay calm and monitored. Panic makes everything harder. Have someone stay with you and watch for worsening symptoms like confusion, severe pain, or loss of consciousness. Catheterization by trained medical professionals is almost always required. This is not a wait-and-see situation. This is not something that will fix itself. I realized then, lying in that hospital bed, that quick action had saved my life. Minutes had mattered. Miriam's decision to rush me to the hospital instead of waiting for morning had been the difference between recovery and catastrophe. This closes with hard-earned wisdom I wished I'd learned years earlier. The doctor gave me a discharge plan that included routine medical checkups every 6 months. Early attention to urinary changes could prevent everything I'd just been through. Simple lifestyle modifications could make a massive difference. Maintaining a healthy weight reduced prostate pressure. Limiting alcohol and caffeine helped bladder function. Staying properly hydrated, but not overhydrated, kept everything flowing smoothly. And if medications were prescribed, taking them consistently could manage or even reverse prostate enlargement. The doctor looked me in the eye one last time before leaving. Ignoring symptoms doesn't make them disappear, he said. It makes them explode. I nodded, finally understanding. I had survived, but survival wasn't the victory. The real victory was knowing when to speak up, when to ask for help, when to overcome pride and embarrassment for the sake of staying alive. As Miriam drove me home 3 days later, I looked out the window at the normal world continuing around us. People walked their dogs. Kids played in yards. Life went on, ordinary and precious. I had almost lost all of this because I was too embarrassed to admit something was wrong. Never again. I would tell my story to anyone who would listen. Because somewhere out there, another man was ignoring the same warning signs, and maybe, just maybe, my words would save his life before his bladder became a time bomb too. If you like more of this kind of stories, please like, comment, and subscribe to Medicore Stories with Dr. Charles. Stay tuned for the next story.